All right. My name is Sheriff Dan Dunlap. I put the names on the board for the speakers in the proper spelling to make life easy for you. We're going to just talk about a few of where we're going with this morning. Number one, we have a couple of victims here, and as long as we're in police work, you still have a feeling for the victims, and especially no husband should have to discover what Mr. Kostelnik did yesterday. So our sympathy goes to the family, and that's why we work so hard to solve these things. There's always a victim on the side of this. Our intention this morning is because there were multiple things going on that day in multiple locations, is to give you a timeline of events and the police work that was going on during the course of the day, and it continued through the night and today. Chief Dan Llewellyn is here. He's the chief of the Lake County Metroparks system, who's going to talk about the early morning hours and a shooting incident that was experienced on the bike path Greenway located near Johnny Cake Ridge 84 and Bank Street, Ravenna Road. I myself will be talking to you in general terms about the homicide that we experienced on Ravenna Road that is in very close proximity to all of the other things going on. We will not be discussing evidence. So if you ask questions about evidence, we're going to tell you we can't talk about it. But we will talk about in general terms what happened yesterday. Attending our press conference this morning is Lynn Smith, who was the Lake County coroner, who had people investigator on scene. This is Charles Colson, who is the Lake County prosecutor, who is going to be working, already has been working with us and will continue to take charge of this case from the criminal prosecution end of things. We have Chief Dan Llewellyn from the Lake Metroparks District, Chief Warner from the Concord Fire Department, and Chief Anthony Palali from the Painesville City Police Department. Chief Llewellyn, would you please begin with the timeline and the events?
Good morning. My name is Chief Llewellyn. I'm the Chief Ranger at the Lake Metroparks, and on behalf of the Metroparks, we'd like to also express our condolences to the family of the victims in this case. These are terrible situations, but our job, of course, is to make the parks as safe as we can. We had a very, very difficult day yesterday, but we're moving ahead, and rest assured that our parks will be safe. Yesterday, approximately 11:15 yesterday morning, we got a call of an attempted rape in the area of Helen Wyman Park. And that call came through the Painesville City Police Department. There was a victim, had ran to a location, a veterinarian hospital, and she reported that she had been, there had been an attempted rape occur. The Painesville officer responded, and he notified us that this had happened in the park, and so we responded there. We learned that this 14-year-old young woman had gone to the park with her uncle, and later identified as a suspect in this case. And they were walking along the park, and an attempted rape occurred. She was able to fight him off and escape. She ran from an area beside one of the streams, and she crossed Route 86 and went to the veterinarian hospital, where the people in that location called the Painesville City Police Department. We worked with her throughout the day to try to determine, make sure she was okay. She was ultimately taken to the hospital, and well, she will be fine physically in that regard. She was not raped. However, we learned the identity of the perpetrator to be her uncle, and working with the Painesville City Police Department, we identified his car, and his car was found in the parking lot of Helen Wyman Park. We towed that vehicle, and we conducted an extensive search in the area here on the map. I can show you. I know I'm stepping away. Well, if you look at the map, you can see the areas where it is it's crossed off. This is all park property here. And if you look at this map will show you this is where the vehicle was at. This is where the attempted rape took place, number one. Number two is the area where the victim ran up the road and called the police department. So at that point, we searched this whole area, the Greenway, this whole area, at least 3 different times in an attempt to try to locate the uncle. We did know his identity. We did know that there was no weapon used in that attempted rape. And we did know that we could not find a criminal history on this subject. We also learned of his address. And Lake Metroparks Rangers searched his house on 2 occasions that morning looking for him. And we were unable to locate him. We were in the process, after this extensive search by 5 Rangers, of acquiring a warrant for his arrest for attempted rape. At that time, we got the call of an active shooter on the Greenway Trail. One of our park patrons had been shot, a female had been shot, and so we responded there. And upon arriving at that location, we were assisted by the Painesville Police Department, of course all the other agencies. The Lake County Sheriff's Office took the investigation over at that point, and they summoned their resources along with a lot of other resources, and we worked throughout the day with them. So at this point, I will hand the microphone back to the sheriff. That is how the day started. It was later determined that that uncle that was a suspect in this attempted rape was in fact the man that was arrested later in the day for the homicide and the shooting of the other victim on the Greenway Trail. And I can tell you just a couple little tidbits about the Greenway Trail. It's owned by the Lake Metroparks. It's 4.8 miles long. And from the area of 84 to Ravenna Road, an area where this incident took place, we have only had about 17 calls down there in the last year, calendar, the whole way back to last July, all of a minor nature. And Lake Metroparks Rangers have patrolled that area. Over 900 patrols have been listed in that area without any major incidents. So with that, Sheriff, I'll hand it back to you.
The lady who was wounded received an injury to her left arm. It was a fleshy wound called a through and through. It was not a BB or a pellet gun. She went to Lake Hospital for treatment, and I have not been able to ascertain if she was released last night, but they said this was not life-threatening and she would be leaving the hospital in fairly short order. At approximately 4:18, we were advised a deputy who was in the search area. We are trying to estimate, but we had approximately 50, I'm thinking over 50 police officers in the area. Dogs, sometimes military equipment is important, armored vehicle, the Tri-County SWAT team. Then we had offers of assistance from the FBI and the national agencies. Fairport Harbor sent a dog. Painesville City sent a dog. There was a huge amount of cooperations. We cordoned off, set a perimeter over this vast area, all the way from Palmer Road on the south to Johnny Cake Ridge, which is also Route 84 on the north, Ravenna Road and the subdivisions to the west of that on the west side, and then on the east side all the way to Wyman Park. A large perimeter was set, and we could only have done it with the large amount of cooperation was received. A deputy who was in the area of 6273 Ravenna Road was approached by a Mr. Kostelnik, who reported that upon his arriving home, he found his wife in the home, and it appeared to him that she was deceased. We were relayed the information promptly and knew we had to have a search. The State Highway Patrol was helping us with the perimeter setting and put a plane up for us. We had multiple search teams in a wooded area, and I would say police work at this point. Everybody was putting themselves at risk. We have a shooter, and nobody said they wouldn't go, and they went into the brush and through some very rough terrain looking for this man. At one point, there was a report that there was 2 potential shooters. We have eliminated that possibility. Myself, I tracked out of the back of the homicide site. There was only one set of ruffled leaves and descending the bank, which is only about 100 to 150 yards from the point where we believe our shooting victim, our walker lady with her 2 12-year-old children were present. And our detectives have done a good job of talking with the airplane pilot and others. We believe that wasn't the sighting. At this point, we believe you have one shooter. Kind of like the 3-door choice, we had a SWAT team group, which is a tri-county SWAT team. Geauga County, Ashtabula County, Lake County Sheriff's Office have been together for years, which allows us to put teams in the field, well-trained. They came to a place where a path broke into 3 branches. Lieutenant Dondorfer said 3 men to each path will cover more ground. And his group approached a large embankment. As they were scaling it, they knew that it would be expose them. The lieutenant wisely said, 1 man will look right as we crest this, 1 man will concentrate center, and 1 man will concentrate left. As they just crested that embankment, one of the members of the team shouted, "Drop your gun, drop your gun." We are told that this man had a rifle. He leveled it to some extent at the deputies. They automatically placed fire on him with their weapons. He was behind a very large boulder. There was a pause in the discharge of the weapons. The lieutenant yelled, "Show your hands," and beside the boulder, he exposed his hands and was taken into custody. And now we have Mr. Juan Emmanuel Raza, R-A-Z-O, whose date of birth is December, excuse me?
I think it's 11.
Sure, first paragraph press release.
Okay, well, excuse me for a minute.
December 11th, 79.
One more time.
December 11th, 79.
His date of birth is December 11th of 1979. His address was the Lassard address, is what he's given to us. He was arrested at the scene. He is being held in the Lake County Jail. He will be arraigned at 3 p.m. today?
Yes.
Today. The original charge is attempted murder. The prosecutor's office is working with us, and I'm sure that additional charges are very likely. A question that will be asked here is Mr. Raza's legal status in the country. We are working with Homeland Security and the FBI to ascertain with certainty his legal status in the United States. I don't believe that I'm in a position to speculate on that right now, but believe me, we are taking a serious look at that. He has no local police record. We did have contact with him on July 7th of this year. One of our lieutenants got a call of a suspicious person at a location not too far away, Casement Avenue, and Border Patrol was contacted at that point, and a discussion was held on legal status, and they said they had conversations even with an interpreter on the phone with him at that time, but no detainer was forthcoming. They would not issue a detainer, and he had committed no crimes, so he was not taken into any custody at that time. That was on July 7th, earlier this year, 2015. We have the coroner here. Doctor, are you going to wish to comment at all? Our coroner is Dr. Lynn Smith.
I arrived at the scene after being called by the Sheriff's Department yesterday, and this woman was lying on the floor of her home. She had bullet holes in her and was obviously dead, and apparently had been dead at least an hour and a half from what I could determine. This was approximately 5 o'clock, and the body was finally released. BCI arrived, worked the scene, and she was transported to the coroner's office in Cleveland last night at approximately 9:30, quarter of 10. And they're in the process of doing an autopsy today, and I think BCI will probably be in with her in addition to my investigator.
Mr. Colson, do you wish to make any comment?
I just want to briefly make a couple comments. First is my sympathies go out to the victims and the victim's family in this case. This is a senseless tragedy. I also want to congratulate the police department for arresting this person so fast. This was fantastic police work in order to find the suspect and get him in custody as quickly as they did. This would be a totally another story if he wasn't in custody already. As the sheriff told you, he will be charged with 1 count of attempted murder right now and arraigned in the Painesville Municipal Court this afternoon. But this is a complex investigation. We're dealing with at least 4 different crime scenes. We are collecting evidence from 4 different crime scenes. The crime laboratories will have to process evidence from 4 different crime scenes. So it will be a while before the final charges are actually filed. I anticipate this probably won't go to the grand jury for about 30 days because of that. So we can get all of the evidence. We want to know exactly the full story before all the final charges are submitted to the grand jury for an indictment. But it is certainly our anticipation that there will be more charges and, in fact, some very serious charges in this case. If you have any questions, feel free to call my office.
Our victim, Mrs. Kostelnik, was 60 years old. I opened with it and I'll close with it. The reason we work so hard is because we care about victims here, and we're going to give every effort possible to make sure that no stone is left unturned. I'm open to questions from any of you. Mr. Orlowski?
Sure. Where does this work?
I'm sorry, Paul. We don't. There was so much going on here, you can tell that I don't have all those kinds of details.
What was her first name?
What is her? Excuse me?
Margaret.
Margaret Kostelnik.
Why did they take that house? And is he talking at all and say why he chose that house?
I'm not going to go there. We have him in custody, and of course we will want to question him. And we've engaged the Painesville City Police, who have a fluently speaking Spanish couple of officers to assist us in that effort.
Sheriff, what can you tell us about his background, what you've been able to learn about him?
Excuse me?
What can you tell us about his background, what you've been able to learn about him?
There is no local history on this fellow. We do not have any criminal record, and at this point we have no social security number to do some of the things. So we are working with Homeland Security and the FBI to use their databases, and I cannot with any certainty tell you of his legal status right now.
Do you know where exactly he's from and how long he may have been in the country? Is there any way to tell?
I will tell you in those terms, he's been here a number of years. We're aware of that. That's the information we have. And I don't know too much else with everything else going on about his history.
Does it appear that he's an illegal alien?
I cannot, I have already said, and I make it very clear, that until we can positively ascertain his legal status, we're not going to make any judgment.
The woman who was shot in the arm, was her 2 children?
Excuse me?
They were her children?
Yes, they were. There were 2, my understanding. She shouted out something to the effect, "You jerk, don't shoot." She heard 2 reports, 2 shots. A third one struck her in her left arm as she's walking north on the trail, and she hears 2 more shots for a total of 5 shots, which she said were somewhat intermittent in nature. But she yelled out, "I have children," something, "you jerk, don't shoot." But she did not see him. She could not identify him. She only heard the shots and was injured herself.
Are you concerned there are other rape victims?
Excuse me?
Are you concerned there could be other rape victims out there or no?
All of this is, we have people who did not sleep last night and who are following up on every angle. We are going to work closely with the Painesville City Police and others to see if we have anything else. There are some excellent databases, both forensically, physical evidence-wise, and we're going to access all of them and use them to our best advantage. I want to thank all the people that assisted, law enforcement in particular, but also the media plays an important role in this. We did 2 on-the-street quick interviews, and you folks got the information to the neighborhood very quickly what was going on. We did send out a reverse 911 to notify neighbors, and I know it worked because as I walked through the backyards, people said I already got the phone call. We're taking a look with everything going on. Maybe we could have sent a second one, but we weren't sure about the second shooter at that point. I am confident now we only have one.
Sure.
Thank you for your attendance. And Chief?
Can I just say one thing? In closing, I'd just like to say that as of noon today, we will reopen the Greenway Trail, the Greenway Corridor, and Helen Wyman Park. We're very, very confident that it's safe for the public. So with that, we'll close.
Are you able to tell us any more about what kind of gun it was? I know he says rifle, but you know, like a...
Here's what we have is, I'd like to introduce to you at this point Mayor David Anderson. Mrs. Kostelnik is an employee of the city in some regard, so Mayor, would you fill them in on that, please?
Thank you. I am Mayor David Anderson from the city of Willoughby. Peggy Kostelnik was a 27-year employee of the city of Willoughby. In addition, her husband Bill is a 25-year employee of the city of Willoughby. Peggy began 27 years ago as an airport secretary. She then assumed the job of both airport secretary and secretary to community development. She then assumed a 3rd job of deputy council clerk. In the last 4 years, assumed a 4th job as my assistant. So I've known Peggy for the 24 years that I've been there. I can tell you that Peggy was an exemplary employee. You know, being the assistant to the mayor can be stressful at times, and she dealt with some pretty angry people at times. I can tell you that she handled those situations with compassion. She handled them with class. She was a person that truly cared about the job she did and the people she served. And you know, you may have heard from time to time people say, so-and-so is the nicest person I ever met. But as I was thinking this morning, Peggy Kostelnik may be the nicest person I ever met. We're devastated today at City Hall by her loss. We've got grief counselors at City Hall as we speak now, and also awaiting more information. Thank you.
Mayor, your thoughts on what happened and your reaction to
Oh, I have no thoughts. It's senseless. It's totally senseless. Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a small version of the map that we displayed for you. We have pictures of Mr. Raza at his booking for you. And we have multiple written press releases for each of you that want it. We will continue as time allows to work with you folks, and you are important to getting information to the public. Thank you very much for your attendance today.